Hello, Honors Pre-Calculus. Just going to quickly go over just a couple topics that are going to be important for Chapter 10. We've done so much distance formula, Pythagorean theorem in here, and the midpoint formula. You've been doing that for years, and there's not many of those. I'm not going to go through those. I wanted to go over one factoring question, and I just picked a random one, this one right here. You go and you factor y squared plus 12y plus 36. We get y plus 6 and y plus 6. Just a reminder, we write that as y plus 6 squared. And the reason why I want to go over this is because of the vocabulary down below. It talks about a perfect square trinomial. So perfect square trinomial is going to be that trinomial that when we factor it, it turns into a binomial squared. So then you get to this section right here that says what must C equal to be a perfect square trinomial. So you're just finding what that number would be to make this factorable and turn into a perfect square. The real reason I'm going over this video is just to review solve by completing the square. And there's different ways of explaining it, but basically it's all the same. What we want to do is we want to figure out what I can add on to x squared minus 4x that will make this factorable into a perfect square trinomial. So I usually move the 2 over minus the 2 from both sides. And if I do add something to the left side, I have to add that same thing to the right side. So then the formula for finding what's in the box, which is supposed to be somewhat self-discovery, number 12, 13, and 14, but really it should just be review from Algebra 2, is we're going to take this middle number, the b, and we're going to divide by 2, and then we're going to square it. So I'm going to take negative 4 divided by 2, and I'm going to square it, or negative 2 squared, which is 4. So if I add 4 there, I've got to add 4 here. Then I can factor this perfect square trinomial. I know that it's going to be a perfect square. So it's going to be one binomial squared. And what besides the x, what gets factored right here is going to be this number before I squared it to get the 4. So minus 2. And then on the other side, simplify. Now this says to solve by completing this square. So I'm going to go a little bit further and find the value of x. We're not always solving, but this is a good review topic from the past. So to solve this entire side is squared. I'm going to square root, but I have to do that to both sides, which means I'll have a plus minus of x minus 2 equals plus minus square root 2, add my 2, and I get 2 plus or minus square root 2, and that is both answers for x. And then this complete the square method, that only works when x squared has a coefficient of 1. So in this one it worked because I had 1x squared. But in number 17, it's not going to work. So I get to manipulate my situation here. I get to make it so that I do start with an x squared. There's a couple different ways that you may do that. I am going to start by moving the 9 over. And then I'm going to add a square to both sides. But because this is 2x squared, I can't do that step yet. So what I do is I factor out the 2. And I put it in front. Now I have left over x squared plus 7/2 x plus, but this time it's not a square, or like it's not the same number. It's like square divided by 2, so I'm just going to use a different shape. I like to use the fluffy cloud. You do not have to use the fluffy cloud, but that's what I like to do. So now what goes in this fluffy cloud is different than what goes in the square. But I can go ahead and find that number because I have x squared inside the parentheses. So my b over 2 is going to be 7/2 over 2, which gives me 7/4 squared, which is 49 over 16. But that is not what I add into the square. Because to get the fluffy cloud, I did square divided by 2. So to get the square, I have to go backwards. And I have to take 49/16 times 2, which is going to be 49 over 8. So now I'm going to factor, and I'm going to have 2x plus, like I said before, whatever I had here before I squared it is what gets factored. And on the other side, I'm going to need to find a common denominator to add those together. Okay, and then I'm going to divide both sides by 2. I think that's 15/2. Okay, I'm going to square root both sides, which means I put a plus minus in. It's going to give me x plus 7/4 equals plus minus. Okay, right here I've got a radical in the denominator, so I've got to rationalize. It's square root of 30 over 2. And so I'll move the 7/4 over. And I could write it this way, or maybe I'll take it one more step and just find a common denominator and write this as one fraction. Just so it looks a little bit nicer. Okay. If you have any further questions on Complete the Square, there's just a few of them, feel free to send me a message anytime. Have a great day.